Welcome to Made in Moray, the podcast that focuses on the successes and struggles of local businesses. Let's get started.
My name's G, I'm your host, and today I have the pleasure of time with Amanda NASSER. She is a qualified optometrist and dispensing optician with over 30 years of professional experience, and her optometry practice, McCLINTOCK Eyecare, is based in Lossiemouth in Moray. Did I get it right?
You did.
Oh,
Spot
super.
on.
Thank you very much. So, good afternoon to you, and what an amazing afternoon it is in Lossiemouth, right?
A very good afternoon to you. Absolutely. It's stunning. It's absolutely gorgeous today.
It is. I'm actually from. Let me explain to people listening, right? That we're actually only about 200 meters away from each other. But because of circumstances and life and the universe and everything, we have to do this through Zoom. But we're both experiencing the wonderful weather of Lossiemouth today. And from my window here, I can see the blue sea and the sandy beach, and it's absolutely lovely. Now, your, shall we say, opticians is on Queen Street, right? Which is somewhere quite close. And I would love to know a little bit about your history and the origin of everything. So can you tell me, where did everything start for you in this business?
Well, I don't want to go far too far, but really, it's in a way things have come around full circle. Because like most young adults at the age of 17, you just don't know what you're going to do, what you're going to study. You go through a list. I didn't have an advisor to advise me on this and that. And I came across optical dispensing. I knew I wanted to work with people, and I was science-based. And I thought, yes, sounds good, let's go for it. So that's really where it started for me with optics. So the journey I've had started from that, very much looking through a list and saying yes. And then I studied the optical dispensing in Bradford, in Yorkshire, for 3 years. And then at 25, I decided, no, I wanted to do something more. And I went and studied optometry in London, and I became an optometrist. So that's my introduction into the optics world.
Wow, I think that explains why I don't hear a local accent in that, right? So did you grow up in Yorkshire, or where did you grow up?
No, not quite. My mom's from Yorkshire, hence the Yorkshire connection. But I actually grew up in Bethlehem in Palestine. My father is Palestinian and my mom is from Yorkshire. So at the time, England was a second home for us. We were traveling backwards and forwards on holiday. But I grew up in Bethlehem in Palestine.
Oh, wow. So at a certain age, you came to Britain with your family, right?
Yeah, at 18.
At 18. Well,
Without my family, actually, with my sister and brothers. So it was always on the cards that we were going to study in England. Mm-hmm. That's where my father met my mom. He was studying in England. So our higher education was going to be in England.
Wow. What was that transition like for you? Because obviously, if people are living in Britain and growing up in Britain and expect to have a life in Britain and have a job and run a business or whatever, your perspective is going to be slightly different, right? Because you've seen a different part of the world, right?
Yes, I wouldn't say different. I immediately took England as home. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't a great period of adaptation, really, although I'm a very adaptable person. But it was always a place where we came on holiday. And so there wasn't a major big transition because I was very familiar with England.
Uh-huh. Wow. So that's England. So how does Scotland and Moray fit into that whole picture? How did you end up here?
So after being in England really for over 20 years, having studied there and worked there, there was an opportunity of, there was some actually work here for 3 months in Elgin. And my husband and I, we were in the process of deciding where we wanted to live in Britain together, because he was in the US. And a friend of mine came up here. He was here rather. And we decided to come up here for 3 months, but it wasn't a choice of we're going to settle here. And then we'd already been to Moray before. So I came here for 3 months and really fell in love with the area and thought, yes, this is the place we're going to be. As simple as that, really.
Wow. What was it about the area that made it different, and how did you find it the first time? Because I have a feeling that Murray's not really on the road to somewhere else. How did you find out about this part of the world?
Well, from friends who actually were living here. So that was the connection. And what attracted us to the area was actually the people, extremely welcoming, had an absolutely, connected immediately with people, and the scenery, absolutely stunning. But yes, to be fair, it was much quieter than any place I'd lived before, although I have lived in villages in England. But still, thought this is absolutely wonderful, and we just decided to stay. And that's now been 15 years.
Wow. Through doing this podcast project, I've met so many people that came here on a holiday and then decided to stay because there was something about the region that was quite special for them. So it's interesting to me to learn about, the attraction for everybody. Moving forward, there's two parts to your business, I think. One part is the dispensing optician and the other part is optometry. Is that right? Or explain to me how it all works.
Yeah, that's right. So as I said, I studied optometry when I was 25. And then from then on, I was practicing optometry and I was an optometrist. And then when I moved up to Scotland, a year later, I decided to start my own business, which is called McCLINTOCK EyeCare. And in that, I would be visiting my patients in the community, and I would be examining eyes, but I was also supplying glasses when needed. So in a way, my role came back into that. I'm a dispensing optician there. So I had both heads on at the same time, so to speak. So that's what it started, was 14 years ago. And then about 16 months ago or so, I then decided to open a new business alongside my domiciliary business. And I decided to open McCLINTOCK Dispensing Opticians. And it's quite different because I don't do eye examination on the premises. And the concept of the business is that people bring an up-to-date prescription and I dispense spectacles. Mm-hmm. So that's what I do on the street.
All right, so that's in the place where you are right now, yeah? Doing
down the road from you, yes.
Down the road, or down the road, or up the road, or one of those things.
Yes.
Right. Absolutely. So what I can see behind you is the glasses that you sell, or the frames that you sell, basically laid out there so that the customers can see them when they come in. There's something really, really special and unique about that shop, because as I have walked up and down the street hundreds of times, always I'm focused in the back of my mind on what's going to be in the window there when I walk past. You've done a fantastic job with decorations and changing it and making something which is really, really eye-catching. So how does that fit into everything,
Well, initially it was like, I have a window, so to me, what's a window for? Of a retail place is to actually make it attractive. So that was really as simple as that, is to say something. But as I went on this journey for the last 16 months, I have to say I've absolutely loved doing up the window. And I suppose it's my creative side that's coming out, because I'm very much medical and science-based.
Mm-hmm.
So, and my creativity comes through the window. And there is no limits. So I can change what I put. I had Mad Hatters one day, another a circus. And my inspiration comes from different mediums, actually. So also for people to look at, but also for me, I don't want to see the same window day in, day out for the whole year. So I think it's just more interesting.
So as a proprietor of your own business, you can do that, basically. If you're like part of a big chain or a national group or whatever, you have to conform to certain standards and everything has to look the same. But if you are an independent business person, you can change the little things and add that little personal touch, which makes a difference, which is really, really nice to see. From your perspective, what's it like being an independent business working in your area, especially if I compare you to larger national chains or groups?
I mean, in the past, over my professional career, I've worked for independents and I've worked for multiples. And I think you just said it there, is that as an independent, I can actually do what I like in my place, my practice, and put my touches in. And to me, working for myself is extremely important, because when I offer, say, a product, I want to be able to choose from all the products on the market. I don't want to be restricted. And when you do work for a non-independent, then they do have restrictions on what products you can use, which is fair enough, and that's how it works. So I wanted to be able to offer a service that I can have any product I want. And I actually try to also, the products that I have are from small independent practices, companies, manufacturers. So it means a lot to me working with independents, but also for me to have my own independent practice.
And the obvious elephant in the room right now is the health crisis, which has affected so many businesses. How did that affect your business?
I mean, it's affected my business and across the UK, Scotland and the UK. But I have to say, we have all just really stepped up. And some of us have had to, think outside the box. I'll speak for myself. Before it was about to happen, lockdown, I'd already thought, right, this is going to happen. What can I do? We obviously follow strict government guidelines as well as NHS guidelines. So we are bound by that, because the eye examinations in Scotland are provided fully by the NHS. So we're following guidelines. And so I was preparing ahead of time, what can I do? How can I reach my customers? And for example, to give you an example, I thought what I can do is virtual dispensing. So that is something I was able to do and help, actually quite a few key workers who'd lost their glasses, broken their glasses. But really what we can't do is open our doors and say we are available for a routine eye examination. So we are all working behind closed doors. So for example, if somebody has an eye problem, then they call us and we do a consultation over the phone. And that has been, in my experience, very, very successful. And if they need to be referred, they can be referred. And they can be seen by an optometrist.
So when people get in touch with you, is it just talking over the phone, or is it like a Skype call, or how do you handle that? Because don't you have to see what the person is like, or is it like a description over the phone? How does it work?
In a way, it's similar to the GP consultations that are happening now. So initially, it depends whether I'm actually speaking to my patient or I'm speaking to a carer that's in a nursing home, because I look after residents in care homes. So I would take all the details by the phone, and then I speak to the patient if I can, because obviously sometimes they're not able to because of various conditions like Alzheimer's, for example, and so on. So I take all this, the symptoms, and then we then do a Skype. So for example, yesterday I was called from a nursing home in Nairn, and it was one of my patients that had moved there, and I had a word with the carer, took all the details, then I spoke to my patient, and we were able to do FaceTime. And through the symptoms and signs of just looking, obviously not everything, but just listening to a patient, which is absolutely the most important thing in our job, is communication and listening. And we take away with regards to information about the symptoms and so on, and then we are able to assess whether that is an emergency or not. So as it happens, my patient, it wasn't yesterday, it was a simple thing as artificial tears, and she just stopped taking them. So it's taking a detailed history of what's been happening. Mm-hmm. But then I had another patient that I did need to refer, and I then speak to another colleague that is based in a hub where we can discuss a patient and see whether they need to be seen by that optometrist. So this is how we do it, by phone call and by video.
How does a person keep their eyes healthy? I think it's more obvious, at least to me from my perspective, in terms of, how you'd keep your heart healthy, or how you'd clean your teeth or something like that. But how do we keep our eyes healthy?
Well, the general health affects the eyes. There are hundreds and hundreds of conditions that affect the body that we can detect through an eye examination. Literally hundreds of conditions, from diabetes to MS, to brain tumors. There are multiple things. So by looking after our health is a first step. But what is crucial is actually having your eyes examined regularly, similar like going to a dentist. Because with the eyes, there are many conditions that can affect the eyes that our patients are not aware of. So it's so important to have regular eye examinations. And that's why in Scotland, the eye examination is covered under the National Health. It used to be in England, but it's changed. So looking after your body in general is important, but having regular eye examinations is very, very important.
So regular is what, every 6 months, or what that means?
It depends on the individual and the age and the conditions they have, or if there's a hereditary element. But I'll say on average, an adult is every 2 years.
Okay. I was reading some information from the Royal National Institute for the Blind, and it was advice for people in general to keep their eyes healthy. And I thought it was interesting that they mentioned 3 things. The first thing was to eat healthily and watch your weight. The second thing was to, if you need to, wear safety goggles where it's possible and practical, for your work, if you need to protect your eyes. And the third thing was to stop smoking. And I was curious why they had that as one of their pieces of advice for eye care. Do you have any insights into why they recommended that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was referring that you look after your body, so for example, smoking, it is known with regards to eyes that it can affect the macular part of the eye. And that is one of the causes of people developing age-related macular degeneration. One of the biggest causes of blindness, actually, in the Western world. So where smoking can have a really big detrimental effect on our eyes. So
does that mean,
like I said, eating, yes?
Yeah, does that mean that smoking in some cases could lead to blindness, or a kind of blindness, or something like that? Because I haven't heard that. Wow.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
In fact,
they don't put that on the cigarette packets, do they?
No, they don't, because there's so many other paths that that, well, they do actually. They put cataracts.
Oh,
They
okay.
do put cataracts, which is one cause. But in the Western world, we don't tend to go blind with cataracts because we have operations. Okay, so there's a treatment for that, whereas macular degeneration doesn't have a cure.
That's really interesting.
So yes, so of course, eating healthy is very, very important. So for example, when I was working as a volunteer in Western Africa, in Burkina Faso, one of the problems that children were having and adults is lack of vitamins and vitamin A, and that can really cause a detriment effect on the eyes. So eating healthily is very, very important.
Yeah, I read a bit of your bio, and it mentioned that you worked for Vision Aid as a country manager in Burkina Faso, which I find quite fascinating. Can you fill us in a little bit more about what that was like and how that all worked?
Well, Vision Aid Overseas is based in England. It's a UK charity, and throughout me being a dispensing optician, I was aware of it, and I'm thinking, it's something I would like to do. You volunteer for 2 weeks and go on projects. But I recall it was a few years after I qualified. Well, actually, in 1999, I saw an advert, and it said, "Do you speak French? Do you know where Burkina Faso is?" And I thought, and do you want to be a volunteer? I said, well, I want to be a volunteer. I do speak French. But where is Burkina Faso? So I found out Burkina Faso is in Western Africa with the capital of Ouagadougou. I think that was another quiz question they put on. And I called them there and then, the minute I saw that, and I phoned and I said, "Hi, yes, I'm interested and I speak French." And my journey with Vision Aid Overseas, working on the ground there, went for 12 years. So it was a very, very big part of my life.
Wow. And what was life like for people out there? I mean, did you get a little window into how hard it is for people in that area or some of the kinds of health problems?
Yeah, I would say a very big window. A very big window we got, because Burkina Faso is, at the time, was the third poorest country in the world.
Wow.
So, which is quite something, and it's a landlocked country. And we weren't working in the capital. I think we worked the first project in the capital for 1 week. So we were literally hours away from the capital, working in very, very remote villages. And so yes, we really got an insight on life there.
Yeah. And
the people. I very, very much connected with the people. So, for example, if you work for Vision Aid Overseas, you tend to go 1 week, 1 year you go to Burkina, then you would go to another part of Africa. I think they had about 10 different countries. But I never did go to any other country. I just stuck with Burkina because I just wanted to make a presence there. I wanted to make a difference, and I wanted continuity. And that's what I did. So I visited regularly. I organized for projects to go there for teams, and then I also went myself.
Wow, it's a great thing to do, and I'm sure it also helps us appreciate how lucky we are to live in this part of the world and have a lot of the advantages that we have from just living here, basically.
Yeah, it does, because there, I mean, to get a pair of glasses would have cost a year's salary.
Wow.
So that's basically how unaffordable a pair of glasses are. So with the teams, we do eye examinations. I was a bit of a hard task team leader. The projects were extremely organized with the help of the country partner there. We worked very well together. And on average, we saw between 3,500 to 4,000 patients in the space of 10 days.
Wow.
And the team consisted of no more than 6 optometrists and 1 dispensing optician. So we worked extremely hard But it was the most one of the most rewarding work I've ever been involved in. So we did the examinations and we provided glasses to the nearest prescription. So, you know, we're there and then we were giving a pair of glasses that made an immediate difference on people. Immediate.
You know, there's an old wives' tale or story, and it was told, I think, by my grandmother to me that if you eat carrots, you will have good eyesight. Yeah. And I discovered after my grandmother had told me this that carrots contain vitamin A, and you mentioned vitamin A as being very important for sight. So maybe there's some truth to that, right?
There is, because I did see, and it's the only place I've ever seen. I've done other volunteer work in other countries, in other parts of the country, world, not to do with vision aid overseas. But Burkina was the only country that I saw in children the lack of vitamin A and serious consequences. But of course, yes, carrots are important, but actually what is really, really important also are the green vegetables.
Okay.
So kale, spinach, that is very important for the macula. And in fact, I go to my daughter's school every year in their health week, and I speak to the children about looking after their eyes and so on, and what's important. And I try to make it in a very fun way rather than you must eat your greens. So I bring that actually, that subject about how important it is to eat the various different colors of vegetables.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think as a culture and society sometimes forget about the simple things, right? We forget that we need that healthy, balanced diet in order for, you know, all of the body to function the way that it is. And eyes are just such a key part of everybody's life, right? I mean, where would we be without the vision to see? I think we take it for granted so often that it's always going to be maybe good for us, or it's always going to be there. But we forget that if we have something all the time, we become accustomed to it and used to it, and we don't know what it's like to not have it. And it's so important. And we just, I don't think that people realize the level of importance of jobs like what you do or are able to do within society, especially during what we call a health crisis right now as well, where everybody should, I think, in the back of their minds be thinking about health to a certain extent, and how do I look after myself, and how do I make sure that things are going to be okay, and how do I prepare for the future. So within the work that you do, what are the enjoyable parts for you? What are the things that you really like?
What makes me smile every day, knowing I'm going to get up and go to work, because I absolutely love my work. I'm very passionate about it with all the various things I've done in it. But people, that's what I love about my job. I never know who I'm going to meet, and from whether they're a patient for an eye examination or who's going to walk through my door. So I'm a people person, and I love interacting with people. Obviously, when it comes to optometry, it's also helping people and make sure they get the right advice. And going back to your point about people not realizing about how important it is to look after your eyes, I feel this is my role as well in educating people and explaining, which I do when I do a certain eye part of the examination. I say, well, I'm going to just now check the health of the eye, and then I actually explain with a few sentences before that how important it is and what things can be picked up and so on. So I actually tell each and every one of my patients what involves having an eye examination. I don't go through the motions. So I feel it's our duty as optometrists as well to explain.
Are there any exercises that we can do for our eyes? Because I'm thinking about other elements of health, right? Obviously, if you're talking about fitness or strength or something like that, there's obvious exercise. Are there things we can do to keep our eyes healthy and strong?
With regards to exercises, and for example, if you need a pair of glasses, no exercises in the world is going to actually alleviate that you need glasses. Having said that, if there is a muscle problem, then we do prescribe a set of exercises to strengthen the muscles of the eye. But that's for binocular vision problems, we call them, when the eyes aren't, the muscles of the eyes aren't working very well. But otherwise, no, I'm afraid there is nothing you can do. If you need glasses, then one needs glasses.
Yeah. What are the hardest parts of the work for you? Good
question. The hardest part that I've come very rarely across, but just a few times, is I've picked up a condition a patient is suffering from, and it's very, very obvious to me what it is, but my patient has categorically refused to be referred or to be seen by a specialist. And it is their right to actually say, no, I don't want to be referred. And I spend a lot of calm energy to explain how important it is. So I would say it very rarely happens, but that would be the hardest, is that when you're able to offer treatment and the patient is not accepting it. Or the other very hardest part is when I was working in Burkina Faso, something that would require a very simple thing as an antibiotic drops, which weren't available, and a patient I know would be losing their vision due to that. So I would say the hardest parts were when I was in Burkina Faso and those challenges that I came across there. But in Britain, not so much.
Yeah, once again, we're lucky to live here in this part of the world and have an understanding of health and have access to healthcare as well. It's so vital for our lives right now. What is the most important thing for you work-wise at the moment? What's your focus on right now? What are the key things for you?
Right now, the focus is being there for my patients and customers to know that I am available. So if, for example, they have an ocular problem, that I can be contacted. They can call me and I can help. So we can do something. And if somebody's lost or broken their glasses, then there is a way of fixing it. And I have done this. So it's to make sure people know that I am here to help. So that is the focus right now.
One thing that always interests me about businesses is how technology changes how people work. Now, some people it affects more than others, but with your 30 years of experience, how has technology changed within the work that you do, and how has it affected your work?
Massively. Looking back when I was in practice, over 32 years ago, the technology we used then for eye examinations to what it is now is phenomenal. Although some instruments have remained the same, actually. Okay. Some instruments have remained the same because they're doing the job amazingly. But others are amazing. One particular instrument that comes to mind is called an OCT, but not every practice has it. And that will take images from the very back of the eye, the retina, and further back from that. So we're able to pick up diseases even before a patient presents with the symptoms. So it really is quite phenomenal how much has changed.
Wow, so you can see the problem before the problem actually occurs, basically.
Yes.
Wow, that's quite amazing. That's almost like predictive medicine or something like that, where you can.
Well, not quite, but it's really, it's very, very pioneering. All these new instruments, and they're coming out all the time. There are new instruments. I go to optical fairs throughout, every year to make sure that I am kept in touch with the latest technology. And it really is phenomenal what's coming out.
So is that how to keep up to date with all the changes, like to visit these places? Or, are there some magazines as well that come out that you can read where there's specific information? Or how do you keep up to date with things?
Well, as an optometrist, and actually dispensing opticians as well, but for myself as an optometrist, we have to do continuing education every year. And we have to do that. Otherwise, we can't remain as optometrists to be registered with the General Optical Council. And you can do that with either going to lectures, attending lectures. Some are interactive, some aren't. So you can keep in touch with what's happening through that. Or you can go beyond that and actually go to the optical fairs and find out what's out there. And of course, read up all the latest articles and so on that are being published. So several ways.
With your work, what is your vision for going forward in terms of what you'd like to do or what you'd like to achieve next?
Well, I see myself continuing being an optometrist and providing domiciliary service. Again, it is something I'm very passionate about because patients not accessing, or people not accessing rather, the service of an eye examination in their own homes or care homes. And I also see continuing my boutique, my optical boutique, and providing a service, a very personalized service, and really providing eye care and for the future of my customers and patients.
With the work that you do, you test people in their homes when you go there. Is that right? So that sometimes they wouldn't come to where you are, you go to where they are. Yeah?
Yes, because the eye examinations are only that I conduct are for patients who are housebound.
Okay.
So all my equipment is portable. And basically I set up my portable equipment in someone's, could be in their kitchen, in their living room, or in a nursing home or care home. Whereas the McCLINTOCK dispensing opticians, no eye examinations are done here, and people bring their own prescription, and I dispense spectacles here.
What's it like running that kind of business in Lossiemouth, which is a small town, I would say? Because obviously if people are in a city or in a larger town or some kind of center where there's more people, it would be more obviously easier because the people are there and you're providing a service that they need. But what's the uniqueness of running that kind of business in this kind of town?
For Lossiemouth, for me to be here, it's really a destination location. There is no doubt about that. But having said that, the locals have been extremely supportive. So it's a lot, at the beginning, it was a lot of word of mouth, and it still remains that. But as the word got out, then I was getting customers come from Elgin, from Bucky, from Forest, from Nairn, from Inverness. So, as I said, I knew this was all going to be a destination location. And really, to be quite honest, if I did go to a place like, for example, Inverness, I would be much, much busier than I am now. But that is not my aim. I wanted to be in Lossiemouth. I like Lossiemouth. I want to contribute to the community here. And slowly, I'm building the business up. And I'm loving it too.
It's nice to hear. It's very nice to hear. I think that if I think back to where I grew up, little village, just down the coast from here. And when I was growing up, there were maybe 4 or 5 shops in the village. There was a newsagent and a post office, and there was a little shop selling wool and needles and things, and there was a butcher a couple of days a week, and there was a little garage there for cars. And over time, the services reduced and reduced and reduced, and now I think there's a little pub which has everything within the pub, and that's it. So it's so nice to see somebody bringing some of these services back to a smaller place, because I get the feeling sometimes everyone's running away, right, from a place. So I think it's nice when people bring the services back to the community and back to the people. And maybe that's the way forward for more people. Yeah, maybe you're setting an example that other people can follow by doing that.
Yeah, I think actually there is a movement out there. And this is knowing through friends who live in different parts of the UK, that small independent businesses are on the rise. And that is really, really happening. And as well, I think when you have a town and you have more shops in it, there's the heart of the community is there. So for example, I'm very much buy local. You know, my upbringing was you buy local.
Yeah.
And that's very much ingrained in me. So to me, it is normal to go to the bakers and buy the bread there. It is normal to go to the butchers. Yeah. I would rather give my money to an independent small practice. In fact, I endeavor to do that, and I will avoid as much as I can to buy from non-independent places. So if something was going to cost me 20p more, you're interacting with the bakers, you're interacting with the butchers. And that's another thing that I absolutely love, is you're supporting a business, but you're also dealing with somebody that, hello, how are you, how are things? So you build up relationships, and that is where I really feel that's very, very important with independent businesses.
Oh, absolutely. There's a whole different experience when you go to the local baker and you buy the bread and you talk about the weather and maybe how's the family and what's new. Then if you compare that to going to like a big supermarket where you just got your shopping trolley and you're just throwing the things in the trolley and trying to get in and out as fast as possible. There's a whole different sort of community kind of concept, which is really held together by the small independent business people. I can't imagine what a place like this would be without those small hubs. A hub doesn't need to be a big place. Yeah,
No.
just a place that creates the opportunity for interaction is so important. And you know, as you mentioned, the community, local people can support that by going to the local businesses, by investing in them, even if it does cost a little bit more, or maybe it doesn't because it's local and you're not paying for your fuel for your car. Maybe it's cheaper sometimes.
Yeah, I think there's also a misconception that we think because a place is independent, it's more expensive. Actually, not at all. And I'm a classic example that my prices are cheaper.
Yeah.
So actually, there's no compromise on the service or the quality, but my prices are cheaper because I choose to make them cheaper.
Oh, absolutely. You're not having to pay the huge overheads. You're not having to pay for big accounting companies to come in and audit across the country.
Yes,
and so those elements are extremely important. And as you mentioned, it does sometimes work out cheaper to keep things local, which is fantastic. What advice would you give to somebody who's, say, out there that they're listening, they've got glasses, but they're not happy with them? at the moment, or they think they need their vision checked or something like that. Where does somebody begin when they think there's something they'd like to change or check?
Sorry, are you referring to the vision or that they don't like their glasses? Because those are two different things.
There's two different things there. You're right. So, well, let's deal with glasses. Like, say you got glasses, but you're not happy with them for whatever reason. What should a person do about that?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
sorry. Please, no, go ahead.
I think it's unbelievable how many people wear glasses and don't like their glasses. They choose the first pair of glasses, yes, that will do, or there isn't a choice, what do I do? I will just get these. Now, we are generally wearing glasses on average 2 years, sometimes 3, sometimes 4 years. And you're wearing a pair of glasses that you're not happy with every single day. It's the first thing people notice about us. It's the first thing when you see somebody, you notice their glasses. So if you're not happy wearing your glasses, then really you don't need to do that. You really need to get the right advice, what frame suits you, what you're comfortable in. And in fact, I've fitted frames out of McCLINTOck Dispensing Opticians, and people have come back and told me, I actually feel now more confident with my glasses.
Okay.
So, firstly, really make sure that when you get glasses, that they put a smile on your face, that you like them. So that's important. But also, of course, what's very important is if you're having problems with your eyes, then you need to have an eye examination, and don't delay it. It might be a very simple thing. But for the moment, you can't go and have a routine eye examination. We don't know exactly when we'll be open for that, but just keep an eye on where, your opticians and when they'll be opening.
Why is it so hard to choose a pair of glasses? And I'm asking from a personal perspective, because last year I decided that I needed to have my eyes checked and that I wanted to get a new pair of glasses because it was about 4 or 5 years that I'd had the same pair, and they get scratched and worn, and it's always good to update anyway. And I went to an optician, and I'm really sad that I didn't go to you, because obviously I made a huge mistake when I didn't go to you. And obviously
that's okay, you're forgiven.
Thank you very much. Check is in the post. And I found it so hard in the shop to make an actual decision about what would look good on me or what would be right. I felt kind of under pressure a little bit within the shop. And the crazy thing is that I bought 2 pairs of glasses, and the pair that I bought my number 1 pair, and I'm like, I'm going to wear these, but I'll get a second pair just in case something happens to the first pair, right? And when I got the glasses, finally, I realized that the second pair were better for me than the first pair I'd chosen. It completely changed. Do you have any ideas about why that might be, or is that just me?
Yeah, you're not alone. This is absolutely so common.
I feel better.
Common thing. First of all, no one should be put under pressure, and no one should be feeling they're under pressure. That I'm going to get this pair, and what do I do? Secondly, if you're given the right advice about what suits you, and it's not just about the shape, actually, it's about the color of the frame, the tone of the skin, and making it a fun experience. I think that is so absolutely important, and putting people at ease. And putting someone at ease means there's no pressure in it. So, the concept of my place, because it's an independent, and because it is my business. So, for example, patients can come and browse, customers rather, can come and have a browse. And I also, part of my nature of hospitality is I will offer a cup of coffee or tea, and I always have cakes on the side. So coming to me is more of a whole experience. It's
I miss the
making
cakes.
somebody comfortable.
I miss the cakes and the coffee. Oh no!
And I try more often than not, if I'm not baking them myself or my daughter, I will buy from local cafes and restaurants actually. So I pick up cakes on the way home and I have a nice little server to put them on. So it's about the whole experience and getting the right advice. I cannot stress upon that. And I don't have a queue of people coming in. I have time. I make time.
Yeah.
So I think a combination of all those is very, very important.
Yeah, and sometimes it happens in the sort of bigger shops and bigger stores. It's so impersonal when you're in there. It's just like you're just another person in the shop, and they're trying to serve. They're not really interested in you, into who you are and why you need it and what it's for and why it's important to you. And the smaller stores with that personal service, it can make the world of difference to a person.
It is, but it's also about the person themselves who are helping you and advising you. Okay, so I think if, like every job, if you like your job and you're passionate about your job, I think that shows through. For whoever you work, that shows through. But again, I'm not under pressure to see so many, customers a day. I'm just not under those pressures. It's the same with my domiciliary visits. If I worked for companies, I would be expected to see 12, 15 customers in a day, home visits. The most I see is 3 patients a day. So it's about providing that really special personal service.
Yeah, and people know you and they get to know you, and you invest time in your client or customer, and they invest time in you, and you build a relationship and a rapport, and that's what communities are about, right? That's what makes a difference in a day for a person.
And that's why I am in Lossiemouth, because my door is open and I have people passing, they're stopping, and actually sometimes I'll come in, have a coffee. So there is this rapport. I actually now know people who haven't got glasses from me, but they stop and say hello. So again, it's about relationships with people.
Absolutely. And making that difference, reaching out to people and making that difference, because I imagine there's a few people like me, hopefully not too many, right? But there's a few, and they would be regularly going past your business without ever dropping in, without really knowing who was there or what was behind everything. And that outreach that you make to make a difference to people, and especially in, you mentioned going to people's homes and giving them an examination there. You might be the only person in a day that they see there. And that's a really important visit for them. That's a really important human connection. And it matters, especially now.
It does matter. It does matter because, again, it's back to, treating people as an individual and taking the time. And when I do go to home visits, you're very right. They sometimes don't even have carers coming in. And they will offer me a cup of tea, and I say, well, I know it takes tea, I'll make it, or I'll make it on the way out for them, and so on. So again, it's what I like about my job, about being with people. You have to really enjoy interacting with people to really enjoy the job, whether you're a dispensing optician or an optometrist.
Yeah, it's a great point. If you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about your industry or your work at this moment in time, what would you like to change about that?
Good question. And industry, to change it overall? Well, you know, we have come a very, very long way. So I think we're doing a phenomenal job up here, actually, especially in Grampian and Scotland. But I'm not sure I have an answer to that.
Did I hear recently that this region is being focused on for its extra special work and contribution in terms of what it's doing right now, that it's kind of leading the way for others to follow? There was an article in the local newspaper recently about the promotion of healthcare and how to stay healthy with eyes, and it would seem to me natural that if people here are doing a little bit more, that they're leading.
Yeah, and it's in general, Scotland is leading the way in optometry. In fact, anybody coming from England can't just work as they used to in a Scottish practice. They have to take exams, which started actually about 13, 14 years ago when I came up. It would have been about 14. And so already Scotland is leading more. The Grampian area is also doing a fantastic job. I mean, even before lockdown was happening, things were being mobilized. How can we reach the public? How can we help them? How can we minimize spreading the COVID-19? And as well, making sure that we're there for them. So I think Grampian has been fantastic leading the way as well on that.
Let me ask, just on a personal level, I'm curious about things like eye injuries or eye problems. And what are there any specific causes or general causes, or what causes the accident, or is there anything that people should be careful with or avoid doing?
In general, the biggest causes of eye injuries is due to things like being in the garden, you doing gardening, and the eye can get scratched that way, or you're doing DIY and you can get paint in your eyes, or various chips, or you're from wood. So that's one of the biggest causes of eye injuries for people to go into A&E. And it's been reported that has increased during this period of lockdown. Everybody, including myself, have been doing so much gardening as well as DIY. And I actually mentioned this in my social media, how important it is to wear protective eyewear. So you can get safety specs and they're not expensive at all and can really protect your eyes. We always think it's not going to happen to us, but there has been a massive increase in numbers of eye injuries.
So these are special glasses that you could wear while you're gardening, or while you're in the workshop, or while you're working on the car, or something like that, yeah?
Yes, they can be without a prescription if you don't need glasses, or they can be made with prescription. And if you are an avid DIY person or gardener, then it's very important you do wear them.
You know what's funny? I've often thought that actually wearing glasses has protected my eyes at various points in time, because you're doing something and something pops out or flies out of somewhere, and it's sort of like been shooting towards my eye and it's hit my glasses, and I've thought, wow, I'm so happy I wear glasses.
Yes, and you're right, and it does, except that there are gaps on the side from your glasses. You can go from the top, but yes, they do definitely provide some protection, but not all protection. So safety specs, they've got a shield on the side, and they look very modern these days. So it's not like the old industrial safety specs we used to dispense. So that's important to have a pair of that in your toolbox or in your gardening box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in the past, I used to wear contact lenses, but over time, I found that I actually prefer to wear glasses. I'm not sure why that is. Do you have any perspective on that about, why I would prefer to wear glasses than contact lenses? Have you noticed some preferences in people?
Yes, there are reasons. Some people find contact lenses are not as comfortable as they used to, or they become a bit fiddly and think, no, I'll just wear my glasses. But there are also advantages to wearing contact lenses, and mainly because it gives you a much wider field of vision when you wear contact lenses. But like I said, there are advantages and disadvantages. So sometimes they're just not as comfortable, contact lenses, and it's easier just to put a pair of glasses on. And nowadays they are considered a fashion accessory, so people wear them as a fashion accessory as well.
Well, I always hoped that my glasses would make me look slightly more intelligent. I'm not sure if it's actually worked, but I don't know. It's all of those films with librarians, and they were always wearing the glasses, I think. And then Harry Potter made glasses cool, right?
Yes.
He made them cool.
Well, glasses have always been cool. It's just the right pair of glasses is what makes you cool.
Right.
Just don't put me on the spot to ask me whether your glasses suit you or not.
I'm pretty sure that you could give me a lot of useful advice, and I'll make a mental note, and after our conversation, I'll get some professional opinions. Moving forward, in terms of influence, recommendations, and practicality, is there a book that you would recommend to people to read that has meant something to you?
Oh, well, lots of books I've read over my many years. I really enjoyed reading the autobiography from Nelson Mandela. I love that book. So that's many that comes to mind, but there's so many that I just can't offhand.
What was special about the Mandela book? What made it different?
The whole humanity, behind the scenes, the journey he took, the injustice, and his resilience. I think resilience is a really, it's a fantastic character to have in yourself. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. And now you've mentioned it, I need to revisit it and read it again.
Are there any characteristics that you think make a person a better business person or a better small independent shop owner? Because you mentioned the characteristics there and habits.
I think loving your job is important, and caring about your job and making sure you do the best you can. I think that's very important. But at the same time, to make it a nice, fun experience. Because to take ourselves too serious, I don't think is necessary. Although, of course, my advice is very professional and so on and so forth. But I think it's just being, quite chilled out about the whole experience, and just really listen. Listen to what people say. Listen what they want. It's not what I want. It's what my patient and customer want.
Yeah, that's one of those underpinning keys of great service. Yeah, just understanding the needs of others. And to do that, you do have to listen very carefully. Time travel is possible. Where would you go and why?
Do I have to go anywhere? Because I'm really happy where I am.
No, you don't have to go anywhere at all. It's one of those just off the wall questions.
Yes. I would travel in time. Well, I would love to come and travel and see my mother in Yorkshire, but there is nowhere I want to go this particular time. I absolutely love traveling. That's another passion in my life. But right this moment, I can't think of where I would want to go.
Well, it's also a sign that you're in a place where you're happy, I think, when you give that kind of answer as well. I would love to thank you very much for the time that you have devoted to this conversation today. I really appreciate it because I know that you're a busy person. If people want to reach out and connect with you or would like some advice from you, where can they find you?
Well, I'm based in Lossiemouth on Queen Street, but really they can just call me. I'm not open yet to the public insofar as for patients just wanting classes. It's all emergency classes. So basically just give me a call. I'm on social media as well under McCLINTOck Dispensing Opticians. And they can reach me on my number, 200406.
Super. And I would recommend that people do that the same way that I did that. I was looking for really interesting people to interview. I went onto your Facebook page. I wrote you a message and you responded very positively to that. And that was how we connected. And if we can connect like that, then other people can connect like that as well. So I would advise people to do that. Once again, thank you very much for your time and energy today. I wish you great success in the future and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Made in Moray is a product of the Academy of Language Therapy and Life Coaching. Book a free online personal or professional development consultation today. What are you waiting for?